Good morning and happy Monday. I almost said Friday. I do that every Monday morning, but happy Monday, friends. Today is Social Media Monday, and I am Franny of Shine with Franny, and I'm going to share with you today 3 simple ways to engage with your community. So if you are tuning in live, please go ahead and share this over on to your page so other people who are trying to launch, scale, or grow their business are able to get this information. So I am a former teacher. Many of you know that. I taught English for many years. I was in an all-girls school, which I loved, by the way. People oftentimes ask me, did you like working with all girls and the single sex? I loved it, loved it, loved it. And I oftentimes joke that nobody got more out of the education than I did. I learned so much. So it was a great thing. But with that being said, being a former teacher, you learn a lot of things about asking questions. And then, of course, having then been a coach, you learn a lot about asking questions. And you want to ask questions that are open-ended, not closed-ended. And so for those of you who know also Carol Dweck, if you are a teacher or you're just familiar with the growth mindset, we know that we oftentimes want to ask the right kinds of questions. So for example, if you are at home right now and you are homeschooling your children and they say, I just don't get it, I give up, right? And they just kind of throw away the towel and close their book and they're done. You might say, what's another way to try this that you haven't tried yet? Where's another place that I can look? Asking yourself that question that will get you to the next answer. So those are growth mindset questions. This is a little bit of public service announcement for those of you who are just tuning in for that. But that is not the kind of question you want to ask when you're trying to engage with your community. So I want you to give me a thumbs up if you have ever asked on Facebook, if you've ever asked something like, hey, where do you go to get your hair cut? Or, hey, which travel soccer team is your child on? So just give me a thumbs up if that is you, because I know for sure that I use a ton of crowdsourcing on Facebook because it's so powerful, because I all of a sudden have thousands of people that can give me insight to something that I don't know about. And most likely they have lots of information about. So with that being said, if that is you and you have, used Facebook as an opportunity for crowdsourcing and getting information, that is one of the things you want to do when you're trying to build your tribe and build your community online. So with that being said, guys, I really want you to think about 3 questions. And I mentioned earlier that I'm a former teacher. And so with that being said, you don't want to ask those kinds of questions that are open-ended. You want to ask closed-ended questions. So again, if we're thinking about the teacher, there's this taxonomy. It's like a big, huge triangle. And the low-level questions, right? Those are the ones that are just like very matter of fact. So these are the 3 ways. So the first one, and if you're taking notes, I would encourage you to do so. You want to ask really simple questions. You want to ask simple yes or no kinds of questions, which is like an either or, right? So again, if you're trying to build your business, you might ask something like, hey, do you use MailChimp or Entreport? Or do you use, MailChimp or Aweber? You can ask the question, or you can say, do you use MailChimp or other, right? You can also do that and make that same question a fill in the blank question. So you can make it it's very simple, and you can just say, hey, which CRM do you use? And if you don't know what a CRM is, you need to be joining my little group here, because we're talking all about CRMs and your client retention programming today. So with that being said, you want to ask a very closed-ended question. You only want to give 2 options if you're asking like an either or a yes-no type question. For those of you who do Instagram stories, give me a thumbs up if you have ever used the yes-no question on your story. It's one of the little elements that you can use when you are creating a story. You can ask people, like I put it up this weekend, something completely superfluous, not at all related to business, but I said, peeps, yes or no? Those little marshmallow Easter candies that you get. I simply put it out there. Do you like peeps? Yes or no? And I got lots of responses, hundreds of responses on that. The winner was yes, people like peeps. And if you like peeps, give me a thumbs up right now, because that's just a simple, fun question. So those are 2 of the kinds of questions so far. And there's a third one, which I told you, and this is to build your community engagement, guys. So honestly, really be thinking about how you want to engage with your people. You want to make your questions pointed so that they're related to your actual brand, to your actual, service and industry that you're providing information in. So the last one then is, do you know, right? You want to ask something that is just a simple, do you know? Right? And so it could be something that is a yes, no question. Again, going back to that. So you have the either or, you've got the fill in the blank, and then you've got the do you know. So do you know what a CRM is? Yes or no? And then your next question that next day, if you're trying to build your social media marketing calendar, is if you look and you see overwhelmingly that people do not have a CRM, and we're going to deep dive into this on Wednesday. So if you guys know, Mondays I do social media Mondays where we just tune in and we learn some basic information, and we do it for like a 10 or 15 minute just to get your brain going for the week. And then Wednesday we do a deep dive on Wednesdays at 1. So we're going to deep dive into this. But for example, what you would do is if you said, do you know what a CRM is? And you threw that as a yes, no question. And tons of people said no, right? So if you had 40 responses and 27 of them said no, the majority of them said no, then guess what? Your next piece of content is going to be what a CRM is. So you want to ask those simple questions, and they're going to help you narrow down what it is your client and your audience is looking for. All right. So that information, like I said, we're going to do a deep dive into this on Wednesday, because you're going to want to know, okay, well, how do I continue to engage with my community? How do I continue to keep the momentum going in the conversations on Facebook? So with that being said, let's just wrap this up. There's 3 ways you want to engage with your community. And there are things that teachers who are watching this are like cringing and there's blood is boiling. And as a former teacher myself, I know that it is definitely it's against my grain. And as a coach, you always want to ask those open-ended questions, right? I want to ask questions like, so tell me about this, or when you tried this, what was the result, right? You want to ask those big questions where people are thinking. It's not the same when you're on social media. You want to ask simple yes, no questions. You could even throw out like, hey, do you know what a hashtag is? A lot of people I'm working with are like, I don't really know exactly how to use them. And so we have to get like, do you know what a hashtag is? You might say, do you know how to use a hashtag? Right? Do you know how many hashtags you use on Instagram versus Facebook? And if you do know that, give me a thumbs up right now, because I want to engage with you. We're going to do a whole thing on Facebook Lives coming up too, guys. So then the second kind of question you want to ask is an either or question, right? Do you do this or this? And you want to give them 2 options. You don't want to give them lots and lots of options. Here's just a little aside with online dating. There was a book that I read a long time ago, and it talked about how when you go into a grocery store, you know how they have samples of things, and they have like, oh, there's different kinds of jelly, right? Let's just use that for example. And they were talking about how when you have more options of jelly, if you have more than 3, people are less likely to buy. You want to narrow the focus. You only say, I have this or this, right? So then you're like, oh, your palate is, if you're thinking about the jelly, you're not having to wait for your palate to kind of return, or you're not having to have a sip of water or something in between. You're like, oh, the strawberry was definitely better than the grape, right? So the long story short, just to circle back and close that loop, with online dating, they were saying because people are thinking like, oh, there's something that's better that's out there. There's so many options. People aren't committing. So if you notice, people are getting married later in life. They're living together. They're not staying, they're not getting married, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole other side. And I could probably do a whole other business that's just on being a 40-something singleton. Okay. And then the last one, guys, the third one is filling in the blanks. And thank you, Deshawn, for teach on. Hopefully this is helpful information. Give me a thumbs up if this is. So the last one is a fill in the blank, right? Which CRM do you use? Boom. Now you wouldn't do that if you didn't ask the question, do you know what a CRM is? So do you see how this then builds and helps you then create your content? So a couple weeks ago, we did a content calendar, like we did like how to use one piece of media. How to use one piece of content to use on multiple platforms. And so definitely go over to my YouTube channel and check that out, because we talked about how to take one piece of information and then to go ahead and repurpose that. And I'm not the only one who's doing this, you guys. Like tons of people, like Gary Vaynerchuk, Chalene Johnson, like tons of people are doing this. But mine was hopefully something that will help you. So let me know if this helped you. Let me know what you're going to try. When you hang up today, I want you to go right over to your social media platform of choice. Right now we're on Facebook. Some of you might be on Instagram watching this, because I do post and repurpose things on other platforms, which is what I would encourage you to do as well. But go ahead and take a few seconds to think of a question that relates to your specific industry and use one of those 3 today. And then circle back to me and let me know what happened, right? How did it work? Did people engage with you? And then finally, set your calendar right now. Put a little reminder in your calendar for Wednesday to tune in at 1:00. We go in a deeper dive, and we're really going to go ahead and deep dive into how to engage with your community, how to take these 3 simple questions and then go the mile deep versus the mile wide. So love hearing from you guys. Would love to hear if this helped. Give me a thumbs up. Please make sure you subscribe on Shine with Franny. I post videos every week and content. I share information with you guys. So I would love for you to go ahead and follow shinewithfranny.com. And then of course on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find me at Shine with Franny on all of those platforms. So go over and subscribe, go over and follow, like, do whatever it is, share with your friends if this content was helpful. And I hope to see you back here on Wednesday for the deeper dive into how to engage with your community. Much love to all of you. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk soon.